Well, hello YouTube. My name's Eugene. Some of you may have already seen a few of my videos, um, but this video is going to be totally different than anything that you've seen that I've done before. This video is going to be talking about why I decided to become a truck driver and also why I eventually decided to come to Williston, North Dakota to work in the oil fields as a truck driver. Give you a little background. Um, I worked for the local newspaper where I'm from in the Monterey area of California uh, for about 9 years, just short of 9 years. I also, during that time, had a couple of different part-time jobs, and my most recent part-time job was working for the city of Monterey. Now, I worked for them for 6 years. So I was working a full-time job and a part-time job at the same time to make ends meet. October of last year, I was laid off of my full-time job along with a couple other people. That put me in dire straits. My part-time job was not going to pay for my rent, food, um, you know, put gas in the car, insurance, all that. So I had to find another solution. I started looking for work, trying to find another full-time job. That didn't work out for me. I also tried to see if I couldn't get my part-time job changed or move into another position or something with them and have a full-time job. Well, that didn't work out either. The jobs just didn't come available. So it wasn't going to work for me. So anyway, I started thinking, well, maybe I could start a new career doing something different. And but I needed something that I could train quickly, required very little time, and provided a decent income. So many years ago, I had considered being a truck driver, semi-truck. I didn't do it then. I decided now was the time to do it. So I started looking around. How was I going to pay for school? Well, some of you may have seen either driving down the road or maybe seen TV commercials, bulletin boards, or whatever. There are several companies out there that will train you to be a truck driver, then hire you, and so you've got basically a guaranteed job when you're done with school. But the problem is that comes with a lot of rules, a lot of restrictions. For example, when they pay for you to go to school, obviously they want an obligation that you're going to work for them. So you've got a choice of either going to their school and moving on to a different company and paying back that money that they invested in you, or, like I said, working for them and working under their rules. Well, one of the big problems with that is they don't pay you very good once you finish school. And then also, some of the companies require you to pay back that money. Every company is different how they do this, so if you're going to do it, consider it. Make sure that you check out all the different options you have. Call more than one company. Like I said, even the ones that do require you to pay it back, in my experience, will then pay that money back to you once you've been with them for a certain period of time. So, one, they train you. Two, you work for them. Three, you pay back part or all of the money. And then as the time goes on, if you're still with them, they then pay that money back to you. So in the long run, most of these companies are okay situations. But for me, that was not going to be a very good option because I'm married. I've got a daughter. I'm from California where the rents and everything else are pretty expensive. So, like I said, that wasn't an option for me. I did have a couple of companies that were going to hire me that way, but I didn't. I finally just turned it down. So I started looking around for other options, and I couldn't afford to pay for school myself, so I went to the county, found out that there was a program that did train people, but that particular program was out of money. I'm not sure if it was before that or after that. Somewhere in there, I ran into a guy that I knew from a job that I worked with in a newspaper, actually. And he had been injured doing another job. I don't recall what job it was, but it doesn't matter, I guess. Anyways, because of his injuries, he couldn't go back to that type of work. So he went to the county, and they had a program where during the rehabilitation, they could also train him to do another job, and that turned out to be truck driving. So the county paid for him to go through truck driving school, and I thought, well, maybe there's another program that I can get money from. Because I wasn't injured, that wasn't an option for me. I wasn't going through any type of rehabilitation program. I asked if I could go through, or if they pay for it, because I was laid off, and the only way they would do that is if I was what they call a displaced worker. But because I had a part-time job, they didn't consider me to be a displaced worker. Finally, there turned out to be a program that would help me because of my income, because I was married, had a kid. The three of us were not making enough money to get by. I was borrowing money every month just to get by. But because of that, there was a program that, like I said, that they would pay for school. So they did. I went to truck driving school in Watsonville, Truck Driver Institute, or Truck Driving Institute. I forget. It's a franchise. Even the person who answers the phone sometimes gets it wrong. I've heard her on the phone say it the wrong way. It's either Driver or Driving Institute, but it's in Watsonville, and that's where I went to school. While I was going to school, I was also looking to see where I might get hired. Right at the end of my school, I did get a couple of companies that were going to hire me. Oh, I didn't tell you. I didn't finish this. I'm finish my thought. Because I was already trained by going through truck driving school myself, companies will then hire me at a higher rate than if I had just hired on and then they were going to pay for school. To give you an example, most of the companies out there that I found were paying either 11 cents or 13 cents per mile that you drove, or that you drive for them after they train you. Now the companies that I looked at later, where I'd taken care of the training myself or through the county, they were looking at hiring me. One company, if I'm not mistaken, it was at 42 cents. No, I don't think it was that high. I think it was around 37 cents, something like that. 32 cents, I don't know, somewhere in there. But you can see it was about 3 times more than these other companies. Then there was a second company that averaged 42 cents, but theirs was kind of weird. They started out at one rate, and then they went up to 75 cents per mile. And anyways, they averaged it to 42 cents a mile. So either one of those companies was better than my other options that I had talked about earlier. But I still wasn't sure this is the route to go. I wasn't positive that I was going to make enough money. So all along this trip, or this period through going through school, I'd been looking in the newspaper, and actually that wasn't where I came with it. I'd read an article, I think, online about real estate, the cost of real estate in Williston. And when I read the article, and I also saw a video, they were talking about the housing problem here, and they also talked about the wages in Williston. The wages were considerably better than anything that any of these other companies were offering me. So while I was waiting, I had a period of wait before I was going to start working at these companies. I actually pushed it out intentionally, so I'd have some time to look at possibly working in the oil fields here. What I had discovered was most companies here wanted you to have 2 or 3 years, and some of them even wanted at least a year or two driving in the snow. So being a brand new truck driver, driving student, and also living in California, I didn't have any experience in the snow, didn't have any driving experience at all. So I kept looking, hoping I'd find something. Well, I ended up finding a company that was willing to hire me with no experience. I'm not with that company now. This was 3 months ago. Oh, by the way, I didn't say, this is November 17th, 2014. So anybody that sees this video later, things may have changed by then. In fact, I'm sure they're going to change by then. But if you're seeing this around this time, you kind of have an idea of what's going on. now. Um, anyways, I'm not working for that company. Things didn't work out there. I was kind of stagnant for a little bit, but I'm finally working for a company. I've been here about a month now. Um, and Anybody who's considering coming out here, there are many things you need to know. First of all, the income is great out here. Uh, uh, you're probably going to make anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000 a year, depending on what company you go with, how much time you put in. Understand though that you're going to spend a lot of time here. And just to give you a quick view, this is November, and you can see there's snow on the ground. So it is cold here. Again, I'm from California. The lows usually are in the 60s. Well, right now, actually my phone is over there, so I can't see what the temperature is, but I think it was about 11 or 12 degrees, something like that. And that's a little bit warmer than it's been. The other night it got down to the negative temperatures, and of course the winds make it worse. So if you're not used to the snow and not used to the cold, you're in for a wake-up call, just like if I was. I knew what I was getting I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. But anyways, I think I'm off track. Anyways, what I was getting at is the wages are good, but there are things you have to put up with. You have to put up with the snow. The rent here is unbelievable. Just to give you an idea, the least expensive one-bedroom apartment, this is the least expensive that I found, and it's out of town, not in town, was $1,980 per month. One bedroom. Now they pay utilities, so other than I guess your cable and your phone bill, you're covered, and food. But you know, I was just looking at my tablet before I started this video, and here's a apartment. It's a one bedroom. This one's a half a block down from where I'm at. One bedroom, $2,200, 880 square feet. Now this is one of the nicer ones that I've seen. I've never seen one here that had a pool. This one has pool, free cable, Wi-Fi. They have air conditioning in the room. It's freaking 9 degrees outside. We don't need air conditioning. That shouldn't be in the advertisement. They supply washer and dryer. They got a spa. They've got a fitness room, a pool table. But you know what? If you're working here, you're probably not going to have time for the pool, the spa, or whatever. Because the average person, most companies out here, you work a minimum of 12 hours. No more 8-hour days. Minimum of 12 hours. Some of those companies you work on the clock, or in other words, by the hour. Other companies, like the company I'm working for, I get paid by the load. Whatever the truck makes, I get a percentage of it. There's good and there's bad there. When there's not enough trucks, then I don't work. But as long as there's a truck, I have an opportunity to make money, and I can make as much money as I want, as long as I can get out there and work and do it. You know, if you've got a family, I don't know if I'm not bringing my family here. My family's still in California. I plan on them staying there. I just came back from a week there. I've been here about 3 months. I went back for a week, and I'm back here again, ready to work. There are people, like, for example, my roommate. He's going to have his family come out here. And well, I should cover that too. The roommate situation. The apartment that I have is paid for as part of my employment. But because it's part of my employment, they make the rules. I'm in a 3-bedroom apartment. There are 2 beds in each bedroom. I'm lucky. I've got the master bedroom, so I've got nice closet space over here. I've got my own bathroom. Well, my own and my roommates. The other guys, there's another 4 guys here. Actually, right now they're empty, but there were the people in here. But there are 4 more beds. When those guys come in, they'll have to share a bathroom. Now we've got a pretty decent apartment. I've got like it said, it's included. I've got a friend that I work with at another company. That company charges their employees $600 a month for the apartment. And again, they've also got to share the rooms. Um, uh, Most of the big companies out here will pay for your accommodations, or they give you some type of a reduction in the rate. Like I said, where my friend is. Now, when I started to talk about bringing your family out here, you know, if you've got a spouse, your spouse wants to work, there's work out here. I don't know what the unemployment rate is where you are, but in the city of Williston, the unemployment rate is 0.9. That's right, 0.9, under 1%. If you want to work in Williston, you will work. Now, Walmart, for example, I'm going to try to put a slide in the beginning of this video. Walmart's starting people at $17 an hour. About a month and a half ago, I was told, I don't know for to be factual, somebody told me they were starting people at $20 an hour. But I know at the beginning of this month, I took this picture that I'm going to try to slide in here for Walmart hiring. Like I said, it's $17 an hour. McDonald's down the street. McDonald's sometimes has to close their dining room because they can't get enough people to work there because they don't pay enough. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's $11 an hour. And they give you an extra dollar if you work nights. Flipping burgers. McDonald's, where I'm from, doesn't pay that. But they still can't keep enough employees there because they can make so much more money at other companies. They've got schools. There's an advertisement right now. The city of Williston is hiring, and they talk about how good the schools are. I don't have any children in the schools here, so I don't know. But supposedly the schools here are good. So if you're considering coming to Williston, you can make a lot of money. Understand, though, if you're a brand new truck driver, you're going to have to find the right company, because not all companies, like I said in the beginning, I think I said, I had to find a company that didn't require 3 years of driving experience, 2 or 3 years of driving in the snow. But they are out here. Those jobs are out here. So if you want to work, if you're unemployed where you're at, if you're underemployed or not employed at all, if you can get your behind out here, there is work. If you look at the census, it'll tell you that there's about 20,000 people in Williston. I think there's 20,000 people who go through Walmart a day in Williston. There's more like 100,000 people in Williston. Because the rents are so high, there are people who live in their vehicle. In fact, the company I work for has a huge lot where they keep their trucks. Besides company employees like myself, they also have what they call leasers who lease on to the company. Those people, most if not all of them, live in their trucks on the property. The company also has some trailers set up around the perimeter that they've got some people living in. Now, the city and county are coming down on companies that do that. There are many companies that do that out here. If you look online, you'll find out about man camps. But the city is coming down and they want people living in proper housing. And the reason the rents are so high is because there's not enough housing here. Supposedly in July, there will be enough housing for the demand. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what somebody told me. I guess that's pretty much it. The conditions here are not good. Like I said, I've got a roommate that I've got to stay with. He's a nice guy, but I'd rather be in a room by myself or my family. Have an apartment with my family, but that just isn't in the cards right now. If you are considering coming out here, Williston's a good city to look for a job. Dickinson, Minot. The good thing about Minot is that there's been an Air Force base there for a long time, so the city has grown over time, and it's what you would expect. You know, they've got places to go shopping. They've got places to eat. They've got, in fact, the rents there are much better. Problem is, it's 100 miles from here, so it's not feasible for me to live there and then drive all the way out here to work. Now There are some cities on the border with Montana that people are driving in from, like Fairview, Glendive maybe, a few other cities. If you look at a map, you can see where those cities are and see if maybe you could bring your family there and then drive in to work, because Fairview is only 30 minutes from Williston, North Dakota. Again, that's in Montana. So there are some options. If you've got any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section below. I'd be glad to answer your questions and go from there. Oh, one more thing I forgot to talk about. Depending on which company you work with, they all have different time off requirements or a schedule. You work 7 days a week. Now, like I said, minimum 12 hours a day. Some companies do a 5 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 5 weeks on, 1 week off, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. There was a company that I was working for. It's 2 months on with a couple weeks, I think it's 10 days off, then 2 months on, 10 days off, and then because of the way the situation works with that company, their type of business, a lot of people take off 2 to 2.5 months in the summer. Because there just isn't enough work. And that particular company, the reason it's not enough work is what they do is they heat up frack water. And obviously during the summer months, there's no need for hot water, or at least not as much. But during the winter months, of course, there is. I think that's about it. I kind of had this planned out in my head, and it hasn't come out exactly the way I wanted to. But hopefully somebody can find some of this information useful. And that's about it. Thanks a lot for watching my video.